Hello friends, welcome to We the People, a new birth of freedom. I really appreciate you stopping by. If you haven't hit the subscription button, go ahead and subscribe, hit the like button, tell your friends, neighbors, acquaintances, enemies, pass the word along. Try to build this YouTube channel, and hopefully the content is something that will inspire you to live as a free American patriot. Previous video, we were talking about the current social condition that we're living in with this COVID-19 virus pandemic. And I mentioned that the real pandemic is fear, uncertainty. It's actually broke out as a pandemonium when people have to raid the toilet paper shelf and the meat shelves, and I don't know why. I mean, unless they think we're going to go into some kind of a famine, I don't understand. But anyway, it certainly lets us know the mindset of many of the American citizens here in the United States. But since that previous video, I was thinking further about this, what we were discussing as far as businesses were left open that were essential. And I just wanted to make another quick video and kind of continue that thought. Businesses that are essential. That's really something. So what has happened? What has happened, friends, is that the government decided, the overreaching, the far-reaching, the out-of-control government, and then once again, I'm not anti-government. I'm not an anarchist in any way, shape, or form. I believe there can be a true form of government, but it has to be run by truth and not by politics that very seldom is true. But the far-reaching, out-of-control, unharnessed government that we have, they defined, listen to this very carefully, they defined what businesses were essential. That really troubles me. Because if they can define what businesses are essential and non-essential, that means that they can fabricate any law they want to based on what they classify as a national emergency, a national crisis. And so I realize, let me interject to say this, I realize that we're a nation of laws, not men. At least that's the theory. But a nation of laws and not men really doesn't make sense to me, because it's men and women that legislate the laws in this nation. Excuse me, there's some big trucks going by. Let me repeat that. It's men and women that legislate the laws by political processes in this nation. So they begin to politicize this national emergency, and they begin to define, listen to this now, they begin to define businesses that were essential and not essential, non-essential. That's very unconstitutional. As I keep saying, and you're going to hear me say it over and over again, we are free American patriots, American citizens. Our freedom is controlled by accountability and responsibility. Should we be accountable and responsible during this pandemic? Of course. But it is not left up to the government to define what businesses can stay open and what businesses have to close. And if you notice, most of the businesses that have closed are the small businesses, the salons, the barbershops. They wanted to close, I think, gun stores, at least in some states. Well, that didn't fly too well. Local restaurants had to close. I see them all over where I'm living here in Ohio. local restaurants, individuals that have worked for years to build up a business for their livelihood, the livelihood of their employees, and for the local community to participate and support local business. But the government stepped in and defined, I can't emphasize that enough because it troubles me right down to my core. The government stepped in and defined what is essential and non-essential. Well, excuse the blatant expression, but it's bullshit. It's total bullshit. The reason I say that is because we're free American patriots, American citizens. A true free American patriot or American citizen knows how to be accountable and responsible and lives according to the dictates of freedom with integrity. We're not anarchists. I'm going to repeat that a lot too. And instead of stepping up and abusing governmental power, and rather using that power to protect us as free Americans, they stepped across the line and said, okay, we're going to define what's essential and non-essential for you. That's up to the American people. There was no vote. There was no vote at all. They just declared what they declared. You're not essential and you're essential. But as I said in the previous video, every single solitary individual that gets a paycheck every week, and every single solitary business owner, small, medium, large, whatever you want to say, however you want to classify it, it's all essential. This is how people live. And if the government thinks that a little stimulus check here and there is going to solve any kind of problem, it's not going to. Not going to at all. And it's just like the woman in Texas that defied that order and opened up her salon anyway because she said she had kids to take care of and employees to take care of. And, well, it didn't really go that far. But she ended up going to jail. You know, it was like Rosa Parks. She was sitting, Rosa Parks, and I made this on a video some months back. Rosa Parks was sitting in the designated area on the bus that was legislated for the blacks to sit. But because more whites had come on the bus, she was asked to give up her legal seat. She said no. She ended up in jail. But it kicked off the civil rights movement. And we need another serious civil rights movement that covers all the amendments once again to get it into the thick-brained, spineless, power-hungry politicians that we live by the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights, not by their rule of law that goes against the Bill of Rights. They should have said, okay, here we have a pandemic. We're going to make everything necessary available that you need, which they wasn't even prepared for. And it's up to you to govern your hours, govern how many customers you have, because here in America, this is the way we do it, because you're a free people. You're not living under a monarchy. You're not living under a totalitarian government. You're not living under some Nazi rule. Are you serious? And then you've got some businesses that, for a period of time, they only allowed 100 customers to come in the business, and they didn't impose the employees to wear masks. But now, at this point, after several months have went by, now they've changed the policy that if you're going to work there, you have to wear a mask, and now they've raised it from 100 customers to come in to 200 customers. That makes absolutely no sense to me, because the customers that are coming in, they're not mandated to wear a mask, and they're going around touching everything that the employees come along and touch. What good is a mask going to do? And so you mean the first 100 people more than likely didn't have the coronavirus, but now since they raise it to 100 people, well, they may have the coronavirus. Yeah, okay. That makes a lot of sense. This whole thing has been turned upside down because you have a bunch of incompetent people in political office that don't know shit from shinola. Here's what should have happened. Because they're not going to put everybody in jail. Collectively, all across the nation, these small businesses that they imposed a non-essential clause on, said you have to close. If every single small business all across the lower 48 states would have collectively stood up and defied that order, said, no, we're going to regulate our business ourselves. We're going to make the rules. We're going to practice social distancing to a certain point. We may wear masks. We're going to allow so many customers to come in at a time. And we may not be able to operate at peak business function, but we're going to keep our income coming in because this is our livelihood. If they would have defied the order on a collective basis all across the lower 48 states, these politicians would have backed off. Sometimes civil disorder is a must. If our founding fathers had not engaged and executed civil disorder and become outlaws, felons, and fugitives, we wouldn't be living in a free nation as we are today. Think about it. Sometimes civil disorder is important. Martin Luther King found that out. Yes, he spent time in jail. But you know what? The Civil Rights Act was finally put into law. What it is, it falls under the 13th Amendment. Not only does the 13th Amendment abolish slavery in the United States and all of its jurisdiction, but it also abolished involuntary servitude. And if all the businesses together would have just stood up and said, you know what, here's what we're going to volunteer to do. We're going to keep our business going. We're going to trim it down a little bit. We're going to put some safety features in order, put some safety features in motion, but we're not shutting down. What are they going to do? Arrest thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of business owners and put us all in jail? I don't think so. They would have backed off. But see, little by little, the American people have been so dumbed down, they just keep giving up their rights, giving up their rights, giving up their rights. So, until next time, God bless and be a true American.